The steering wheel was cool beneath my trembling hands. I felt his presence behind me, watching, waiting, probably wondering how someone could be this bad at parallel parking. His breath was close enough to warm my neck as he leaned in, his voice low and instructive. Relax your grip. Let the wheel guide you. I let out a shaky laugh, but followed his instructions. It wasn't the parking that had me nervous. Before we get into the real lesson, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. It's quick, free, and means more than you know. Plus, you'll never miss another confession like this one. Now, let's get back to how my driving instructor taught me way more than just handling the stick. I'd been putting off driving lessons for years. 23 and still taking the bus everywhere. Embarrassing, right? But when I finally signed up, I wasn't expecting him. Tall, with dark hair that fell perfectly across his forehead, and hands that moved with such deliberate control. The kind of hands you couldn't help but imagine elsewhere. During our third lesson, those hands were wrapped around mine on the gear shift, showing me how to find the right position. Feel the resistance? He murmured, his chest almost pressed against my back. You need to be firm but gentle. Too rough and you'll grind the gears. I swallowed hard, trying to focus on the mechanical motion instead of the heat spreading through me. Like this? Exactly like that. His approval sent a thrill through me that had nothing to do with mastering manual transmission. We'd been practicing. In an empty parking lot, just us, the afternoon sun, and rows of painted lines. The isolation made everything feel more intense, more intimate. Every instruction, every correction carried weight I wasn't sure he intended. Try reversing into that space, he said, pointing to a particularly tight spot between two cones. Remember what I taught you about using your mirrors. I did remember. I remembered everything he taught me, the way his voice dropped when he was concentrating, how his jaw tightened when I made a mistake. But this particular maneuver had been my nemesis for weeks. Halfway through my attempt, I felt the car jerk, as I miscalculated the angle. Again. Stop, he said, but not harshly. Let me show you something different. He pulled out his phone and I watched him scroll through his contacts. Sometimes a different perspective helps. My colleague does advanced training. Let me see if he's free. I shifted in my seat, adjusting my dress that had ridden up slightly during all the gear changes. His eyes flickered down for just a moment before returning to his phone. He's nearby, says he can be here in 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes stretched, like hours. We sat in comfortable silence, the afternoon heat making the car feel smaller, more confined. I could hear his breathing, steady and controlled, while mine felt anything but. You're doing better than you think, he said finally, breaking the silence. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, I can barely handle the basics. He turned to face me fully then, and something in his expression shifted. Sometimes the basics need to be felt, not just understood. A car pulled up beside us before I could respond. His colleague, younger than I expected, with an easy smile and confident stride, approached my window. This the student who's been giving you trouble? He asked, but his tone was teasing, not condescending. She just needs a different approach, my instructor replied, and I caught something unspoken passing between them. The colleague opened my door. Mind if I take the driver's seat for a demonstration? I slid across to the passenger side, hyper-aware of every movement. My instructor got out too, and for a moment I thought the lesson was over. Then he opened the back door. Better view from here, he explained, settling behind me. His colleague adjusted the mirrors, started the engine, and began explaining the maneuver. But I found it hard to concentrate with my original instructor so close behind me, his presence filling the back seat. Watch how he positions the car, came the voice behind me. See the angle? I nodded, but my attention was split. The colleague was demonstrating something about wheel rotation, but I was more aware of the subtle shift of weight in the back seat, the way the afternoon light caught in the rearview mirror. Your turn, the colleague said, putting the car in park, but this time we'll guide you through it differently. They switched positions, the colleague moving to the back while my instructor returned to the passenger seat. But something had changed. The air felt charged, electric with possibility. Start the engine, my instructor said, his voice lower than before. I did, feeling the vibration through the seat, through my whole body. The colleague leaned forward from the back, his hands coming to rest on my shoulders. Tension, he said simply. You're holding it all here. Let it go. His thumbs pressed into the knots I didn't realize I had, and I couldn't suppress the small sound that escaped me. My instructor's hand found my thigh, just above my knee. Better, he murmured. Now try the maneuver. How was I supposed to focus? On parking with 4 hands on me? But somehow, miraculously, the car moved more smoothly than before. Maybe it was the distraction, maybe it was finally letting go of my fear, but I executed the reverse parking perfectly. Perfect, they said almost in unison, and the word felt loaded with meaning. The colleague's hands slid down my arms, guiding them to the gear shift. My instructor's hand was still on my thigh, his thumb tracing small circles that sent shivers through me. Now, the colleague said against my ear, let's work on your clutch control. His hands covered mine on the gear shift while my instructor's hand moved higher up my thigh. The dress that had seemed perfectly appropriate this morning now felt impossibly thin. Feel that sweet spot? The colleague asked. And I wasn't sure if he meant the clutch or something else entirely. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The car was in neutral, engine idling, but my heart was racing like I was doing 90 on the highway. My instructor leaned across the center console, his breath warm against my cheek. You're doing so well. Natural talent. The praise, combined with his proximity, made me bold. I turned my head slightly and our lips were inches apart. His eyes darkened, pupils dilating, and I knew he felt it too. This tension that had been building for weeks. Should we? I started to say, but the colleague's lips found my neck, and the words dissolved into a gasp. Should we what? My instructor asked, his voice rough with want. Instead of answering, I closed the distance between us, pressing my lips to his. He responded immediately, his hand tightening on my thigh as he deepened the kiss. Behind me, I felt the colleague's smile against my skin. Finally, he murmured. Been waiting for this since week 1. My instructor pulled back just enough to look at me, searching my face. Tell us what you want. What did I want? Everything. All of it. Them. Teach me, I whispered. Everything. His smile was dark and promising. Get in the back. I fumbled with my seatbelt, hands shaking with anticipation. The colleague helped me between the seats, his hands steady and sure. The back seat seemed impossibly spacious now, full of possibility. My instructor joined us, sandwiching me between them. First lesson, he said, fingers trailing down my arm. Always maintain control. The colleague's laugh rumbled against my back. She's a quick learner. Their hands moved in tandem, one from the front, one from behind, mapping territory that had nothing to do with driving. My instructor's kiss was demanding, consuming, while the colleague's lips found that sensitive spot just below my ear. Still want to learn everything? My instructor asked against my mouth. I answered by reaching for him, pulling him closer, my other hand finding the colleague behind me. They moved with practiced synchronization, like they'd done this before, like they'd been waiting for the right student. Clothes became obstacles, removed with efficient movements that spoke of experience. The leather seat was cool against my heated skin, a stark contrast to their warm hands, their burning touches. Lesson 2, the colleague whispered, his voice strained. Always be aware of your surroundings. I was hyper-aware of the fading sunlight through tinted windows, of the isolation of our parking lot, of every place their skin touched mine. My instructor's mouth traced a path down my throat while his colleague's hands explored with deliberate precision. They moved me between them like choreography, each knowing exactly where to be, what to do. I was surrounded, overwhelmed in the best possible way, caught between 2 different but complementary energies. Ready for the advanced course? My instructor asked, and I could only nod, already lost in sensation. What followed was nothing like any lesson plan. They worked together seamlessly, pleasure building in waves that crashed over me again and again. Every touch was deliberate, every movement calculated for maximum impact. Time lost meaning in that back seat. There was only sensation, only the push and pull of bodies moving together, only the sound of ragged breathing and whispered encouragements. They took turns leading, following, showing me things that definitely weren't in any driving manual. When the first wave hit me, I gripped whatever I could reach. Someone's shoulder, the door handle, anything to anchor me. They didn't stop, didn't slow, just adjusted their rhythm to draw out every second of pleasure. Beautiful, one of them murmured. I'd lost track of who was who, everything blurring together in the best possible way. They moved me again, a new configuration, new sensations. The car windows had fogged completely, creating our own private world. I felt powerful and vulnerable simultaneously, taking and being taken, learning lessons that had nothing to do with parallel parking. The colleague's control slipped first, his movements becoming more urgent, more desperate. My instructor watched with dark eyes, his own restraint clearly costing him. When they switched positions again, the energy shifted, becoming more intense, more primal. I lost count of how many times they brought me to that edge and over it. Each time felt different, sharper, deeper, more consuming. They seemed to feed off each other's energy, competition, and cooperation blending into something unique. Last lesson, my instructor groaned, his voice barely recognizable. Always finish what you start. They moved together then, all pretense of instruction abandoned. It was pure instinct, pure need, 3 bodies moving as one toward an inevitable conclusion. When it came, it was overwhelming, all of us tumbling over that edge together, a tangle of limbs and gasps and satisfaction. We lay there afterward, breathing hard, the car filled with the evidence of our lesson. The colleague recovered first, pressing a kiss to my shoulder before starting to dress. Same time next week? He asked with a grin. My instructor's arm tightened around me possessively. We'll see. Might need some one-on-one sessions first. As they helped me dress, straightening clothes and smoothing hair, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked thoroughly educated. So, I said, trying to sound casual despite everything, did I pass? They exchanged looks, and my instructor smiled. With flying colors. But I think you might need a few more lessons. Advanced placement, you know. The colleague opened the door, letting in cool evening air. I'll leave you two to discuss the curriculum. He left with a wave and a knowing look. My instructor and I sat in comfortable silence for a moment before he spoke. For the record, he said, you really are improving. The parking, I mean, I laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. Good to know all this practice is paying off. He pulled me close, kissing me softly this time, without the urgency of before. Next week, we'll work on hill starts. Just hill starts? I asked, trying to sound innocent. His grin was wicked. We'll see how well you handle the basics first. As he drove me home, turned out I wasn't quite ready to drive after our lesson, I thought about all the things I still had to learn. Suddenly, getting my license seemed like it might take much longer than originally planned, and I was perfectly okay with that. So tell me, have you ever had a teacher who went above and beyond the curriculum? Did you take the advanced course? Or play it safe with the basics? Drop a comment below. I promise I read every single one. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe if you want to hear about my next lesson. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single confession. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens when we tackle those hill starts. Until next time, drive safe. Or not.